The ship groaned through the channel mist, its deck slick with salt and rain. Below the canvas shrouds, the captured Panzer IV was chained like a sleeping animal, steel dull under the weak morning light. Sergeant Hanley stood at the railing, cigarette cupped against the wind, watching gray waves slap the hull. Every swell made the tank shift a little on its mounts, metal chains clinking like distant bells. Across the deck, Lieutenant Carter hunched over a notebook, rain spotting the pages. "They'll take it apart down to the last bolt," he said. "Maybe build one back up just to see how it breathes." Hanley half smiled. "You make it sound alive. Anything that kills that many men is alive in its own way." When the ship reached Portsmouth, cranes lifted the Panzer as if raising a relic from the sea. British dockhands stared, murmuring. The air smelled of diesel and curiosity. News spread fast. A genuine captured Panzer IV, intact, coming to the Allied Research Center at Farnborough. Reporters weren't allowed, but the rumor alone charged the air like static before lightning. Inside the testing shed, engineers swarmed the tank. Floodlights glared off steel, clipboards rustled, chalk squealed on blackboards. The Americans were guests now, watching British experts handle their prize with surgical fascination. One of them, Dr. Eleanor Ridgway, thin, sharp-eyed, her coveralls streaked with graphite, ran her gloved hand across the glacis. 50 millimeters, she said, voice crisp. Remarkably modest for its reputation. Carter nodded. "That's what we found. The Germans sold fear better than armor." They began cutting sections for metallurgical tests. Sparks cascaded in gold arcs. Ridgway's team measured hardness, traced weld quality, noted impurities in the alloy. "They used nickel-poor steel," she observed. "It's not better metal, it's clever geometry. Angles, spacing, crew training. Myth built from discipline." Hanley leaned on a workbench, listening. The lab lights made everything sterile, almost holy. It struck him how far this thing had come, from muddy fields in Normandy to a clean British hangar, from roar to silence. Later, over tea, Ridgway asked the Americans about the battle. "What did you feel when you saw it first?" Hanley took a moment. "Relief," he admitted. "Then anger. We've been fighting ghosts. Turns out they bled just like us." That night, he couldn't sleep. The tank loomed under tarps, shadow huge on the wall. The war felt far away yet humming under the floorboards, as if the machine still carried echoes of its last fight. He approached, flashlight trembling in his hand, and peered through the commander's hatch. Inside, soot and brass fragments glittered faintly. For a second, he swore he heard a voice, German, calm, issuing orders drowned by distance. He stepped back, heart hammering. Maybe memory itself haunted the steel. Weeks passed. Reports piled up, armor quality charts, cross-sections, firing test photos. Allied analysts compared everything, angles, sight optics, crew layout. The Panzer IV wasn't invincible, it was efficient, teachable, pragmatic. And that insight rippled outward. Training manuals were rewritten. Gunnery lessons emphasized precision over panic. One afternoon, Carter was summoned to a briefing at Whitehall. He returned pale but electric. "They've ordered new frontal reinforcements for Shermans, sloped applique plates. Direct result of what we found." Hanley laughed softly. "So the enemy's weakness becomes our upgrade." "That's war," Carter said. "You cannibalize their ghosts." As they prepared to return to the front, Ridgway handed Carter a folder. Inside were photographs, cross-sections, measurements, and a note in neat handwriting. "Understanding is the first armor against fear." ER. The words stuck with him. Back in France, the 3rd Armored rolled again through ruined towns. News traveled faster than bullets. Rumors that new German tanks, the Panthers and Tigers, were appearing, their armor far beyond 50 millimeters. Yet the men no longer trembled at shadows. They had seen the myth stripped bare. They knew everything could break. One rainy dawn, as they prepared for another advance, Dorsey looked over at Hanley. "You think we'll ever see another one of those?" Hanley shrugged. "Maybe. But this time, we'll know where to aim." He tapped the side of his helmet. "Here." The column moved out, engines rumbling like distant thunder. The war was turning again, faster, deadlier, but beneath the noise a quiet confidence held, a sense that knowledge itself was armor. At dusk they bivouacked near a ruined monastery. Shellfire echoed far off. Hanley lay on the ground, staring at the cloud-choked sky. He thought about that Panzer in England, cut to pieces, its secrets feeding new machines. Somewhere a German engineer was probably doing the same with wrecked Shermans, sketching improvements by candlelight. War as dialogue, steel answering steel, until both languages ran out of words. He dozed, dreaming of the tank rising from the sea, its armor paper-thin yet impossible to destroy because it was made of belief. When he woke, the world smelled of rain and cordate. The dream faded, but the idea stayed. Fear has a thickness, and once you measure it, it loses power. Days later, during an engagement outside Aachen, his Sherman took a hit on the side plate. The shell gouged metal but didn't penetrate. Smoke filled the turret. "You good?" Carter shouted. "Still here." Hanley coughed, laughing. "Guess 50 millimeters isn't the only thin skin around." They survived barely. After the fight, as medics worked and the dead were counted, Hanley sat on the track, staring at the ragged hole where the shell had kissed and bounced. He imagined some German gunners staring back across the distance, both of them wondering which side really had the better armor. Maybe neither. Maybe it was the same thin courage, stretched over men who refused to stop. That night, he wrote a line in his notebook. "The war teaches that steel lies. Men don't, unless they're afraid." He closed the book, wiped the soot from his face, and watched the horizon flicker with the next battle's light.